Greetings from a lovely bed and breakfast in Confluence, Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely place to be, but believe me, I think this week I've earned it, as you're about to find out. So I know I'm in the shadows, so let me get turned around so you can get a better shot at me, but some people complain that I don't do enough backgrounds of nature, so where I am now is quite lovely in this bed and breakfast. So let me turn this around. Not bad. A couple of people have asked me how my joints are doing. Most of you have no idea. A couple of years ago I had complete joint replacements in both my knees and a shoulder, and they're doing great. The knees are absolutely symptom free. They feel totally great. I haven't had the least little twinge. My shoulder has ached a few times, so I'm going to have my orthopedist take a look at that when I get back, but after 6 weeks of riding most of the time, I think they're all doing great. So there's some good news. Oh boy, what a week. When I last posted, I was with my dear friend Dave Crislip and his bride in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Dave took me down to the Ohio River at the beginning of the Ohio-to-Erie Trail. It's a totally paved collection of a handful of bike paths that go all the way from the Ohio River to Lake Erie. My intent was to ride it from the Ohio River to Massillon, Ohio, not go all the way north, because I wanted to head over east to Pittsburgh to pick up the Great Allegheny Passage trail there. We'll see how that went. Cincinnati's riverfront was lovely. It was a Saturday morning, Sunday morning. It was definitely the weekend, so there was basically nobody around, which was great, because I'm sure it would have been very busy with business people otherwise. But managed to see a couple of statues, check out all the signage, and start riding. Got out of town pretty quickly. Had to ride on a few streets and through some golf courses and stuff like that. One really steep hill, but it was super short. But by the time I'd been riding, I don't know, a half hour, I was basically out of Cincinnati and on this lovely paved bike trail that I took all the way up to Xenia, Ohio. There was one detour. Some construction was going on the trail, and man, it involved about 4 miles of a really steep climb, then winding around through some neighborhoods, and then a even steeper decline back to the trail. But you know, out of all the miles that was, one detour wasn't all that bad. Then I got to Xenia and started trying to find places to stay. It was kind of late afternoon. I started asking people. Nobody has any idea of any campsites anywhere near the trail. There were a couple of RV parks, but they would have been 10 miles from the trail. So I went about 4 miles out of town to a tiny little park, had a porta potty, an old looking fountain, certainly no showers or Wi-Fi or electricity. And I was settling in when my high school friend Pam Freund and her husband Steve Moore swung by to offer to take me out to dinner. Great. So we put my bike in their truck, and because I wasn't about to leave it in that little park, and headed out to have dinner and again scout places to stay. They were as unimpressed with that park as I was, so they invited me to stay in their lovely home. What a nice evening and dinner. Trail magic for sure, tour magic for sure. We had a lovely evening, sitting up later than I should, talking about all kinds of stuff. Great conversation. Really hope to host them in Nashville sometime soon. But the ride from Cincinnati to Xenia along the Little Miami River on I think it's called the Little Miami Trail or something like that. People in kayaks and canoes along the river, and it was just a really, really lovely ride, topped off by my evening with my friend Pam from high school and her husband. On the way up to their place, just outside Xenia, I had no idea. We went through Dave Chappelle's town. I think it's Yellow Springs, whatever, and saw his little club where he performs every now and then, and his new performance space that he's building. And I like Dave Chappelle, so that was kind of cool. Hope to see them in Nashville. It was hazy. The Canadian wildfires continue to have their effect, and I think the air quality index there was like 150, which is not good. Otherwise, by the way, I have been so lucky with weather all the way across the country. Wow. And that week was no exception. The temperature was in the 70s, 80s. I don't think it touched 90. It was in the 60s at night. Not that I got to camp out. But man, the weather has just been fantastic all the way up through today when it's just spectacular out here. It's, what's the temperature right now? 81 degrees, low humidity, light breeze. Wow. So Monday morning, it was Sunday that I made that ride. It was time to ride my bike to Columbus. And Steve dropped me off back at the Ohio-to-Erie Trail. And it's, again, a lovely paved bike path through farm country, mainly covered with trees, which I didn't expect in Ohio. That was neat. And not a lot of things to report. I'm not sure if I took any really interesting pictures or drone videos, but I made it to Columbus. And I lived in Columbus for 5 years, so I thought I knew the town pretty well. Coming in from this angle to the southeast was some pretty sleazy areas that I'd never seen before. Quite a few homeless people, industrial stuff, that sort of stuff. But I made it to downtown Columbus. Started looking on maps and stuff, my tour guides and things, for places to camp. You know, back when I was in Missouri, Nebraska, Oregon, there were places to camp in every little town. And they were welcoming. There were showers and bathrooms and electricity, sometimes Wi-Fi. Worst case, I'd go to an RV park that was right on whatever road I was riding. Man, not so in Ohio. I finally found a park ranger in downtown Columbus. I said, is there any place I can camp near here, near the Ohio-to-Erie Trail? And he said, well, if you pitch your tent late, you can probably get away with it as long as you break camp early, but you're probably going to be with homeless people. Okay, so I'm not going to camp in Columbus. So I went to Expedia and found a Red Roof Inn where I spent the night, kind of a splurge. And I guess I've mentioned on these YouTube posts, I really like to camp. Some of my favorite times in this whole adventure has been the camping, and I'm really looking forward to camping. But I couldn't, so I checked into a Red Roof Inn in downtown Columbus. And then one of the first things I did was start searching, okay, going north out of Columbus towards Massillon or Canton, where am I going to be able to camp? And I couldn't come up with anything, anywhere near the trail. In Massillon, in Canton, anywhere near there. There were some RV parks, but they weren't close enough to the trail. I'm not going to ride 10 miles each way to do that. So I cut a day off of my Ohio visit, and instead of going up to Massillon and then over to Pittsburgh, I reserved a budget SUV, a big GMC Denali, and decided to just drive my bike again, this time from Columbus to Pittsburgh. Cut Ohio short by a day and never did pitch my tent in Ohio, which was really disappointing. Darn. Okay. Tuesday, grabbed a Starbucks, grabbed the SUV, and wham, drove 3 hours to Pittsburgh and really treated myself. I knew it was going to be a long time before I was in a hotel again. So I went to a downtown Marriott. I was on the 21st floor, lovely room, got all checked in, took a shower, went down and had a pommes frites dinner, flank steak, and a glass of wine, which I haven't had in the entire time I've been on this trip, so that was kind of cool. And then the next morning, got an early start in Pittsburgh. It was kind of windy. Well, here's a video that explains a little bit of what that was like. Well, that was an interesting start to the day. I left the hotel in time to be rolling on the trail by 7 a.m., but still, riding through downtown Pittsburgh in traffic with those big buses was a bit harrowing. And then I couldn't find the beginning of the trail. I think I finally did and took a picture, but there wasn't any official starting point. And then there was another mile of downtown surface street traffic with detours, which was interesting. But once I got on the actual bike trail, it's 15 feet wide, fairly smooth, just awesome. I'm following the Monongahela River up out of town. I've gone about 6 miles now, I think. It's been flat and it's already tree shrouded and lovely, as you might be able to see. So first few miles of the Allegheny Trail did not start very beautifully, but now I'm rolling and it's lovely. Onward. 350 miles to go or something like that to Washington. Okay, so I'm outside of Pittsburgh, and for the first 20 miles it was pretty industrial and it was paved, and there were some bridges. I had to go up crisscrossy ramps to cross a bridge to get across the river and back down, and it was not great, but it was okay. But about 20 miles out, it became wonderful. The Great Allegheny Passage Trail was just awesome. And my total ride that day was 61 miles, slow getting out of Pittsburgh, but the last 40 on that trail were absolutely awesome. Let's see. Sweet ride along the Monongahela River, and then the I can't pronounce it. Here's a sign of the name of the river I was then on for the rest of the day. Okay, it's about mile 26. It's about 9:30 in the morning, and the first 20 plus miles of the Allegheny Passage was paved, industrial towns. It was okay, but it wasn't what I was looking for. Now, this is great surface in the woods, nobody around. This is what I was expecting. This is awesome. I hope a lot more of the Allegheny Trail, Great Allegheny Passage is just like this. This is super. Okay. Finally got to Connellsville. There were some yurts where I was planning to spend the night, so I pulled my bike up to the yurt, looked back. Can you tell what's wrong with this picture? One of my panniers was gone. The panniers are those 4 big black bags that carry my whole life, everything, and one of them was gone. Somewhere between Pittsburgh and Connellsville, it must have jumped off. I must not have secured it quite right. So I was missing the bag, my puffy jacket, which I've also been using as a pillow the whole time, my stove, my fuel, my cup, my fork, my plate, sleeping pad, the pump that I blow up the sleeping pad with, and some other stuff. I haven't completed the inventory yet, but I keep noticing more stuff that's wrong because I lost a pannier. So now I can't cook. Camping is going to be very uncomfortable without a pad. There's no place in Connellsville to replace any of that stuff. So I looked for the cheapest motel in town. Mistake. It was up a steep 2-mile hill. I got there. Looks pretty sketchy. There's a woman behind a glass thing with a little speaker to check me in. Not quite the same as the Marriott in Pittsburgh that morning. There was no air conditioning. I could hear people through the walls quite clearly. There was a television, but it didn't have a working volume control, and I quickly discovered that that was because it would annoy the neighbors if you turned up the volume at all. Happily, I checked the room that said not smoking. There was an option. Who knew that was an option anywhere? So this room was not at all like the room in Pittsburgh. This room. Wow. What a dump. So camping is now going to be really problematic until I get to some place like an REI where I can replace my missing equipment. I may not. I may just do warm showers, bed and breakfast, hotels for the rest of the trip. I've got about 500 miles to go. I may just, I don't know whether I'm going to camp anymore or not. I sure want to, because again, camping has been a main part of what I've enjoyed the most in this whole trip. So, from the sleaziest motel room I think I've ever been in, I booked a room tonight here in Confluence, Pennsylvania. Lovely bed and breakfast. What a change. I really, really like it here. I have a charming little room. Everything is like right out of the turn of the previous century, but that's okay. They've got a nice restaurant right next door where I had a lovely lunch today. And wow, I may not camp anymore. I don't know. Tomorrow I'm supposed to make it to Cumberland. I have a hotel room booked, but it's 60 miles. That's okay. That's about as far as I like to push myself. It's a little bit of a push, but I'm in that good a shape now. Largely uphill, very gradual grade. But it's supposed to rain all morning, and I haven't had a rainy day yet on this whole trip, so tomorrow might be my first rainy day. But at least this Great Allegheny Passage trail is such firm, ground up something or other. I don't even know what it is, but I'm really, really enjoying this trail. Getting here today, I crossed a couple of bridges. You should be proud of me. They were long wooden bridges, and I rode my bike across one of them, and it was high. And I am afraid of heights, but I rode my bike across one of them, and I just happened to walk my bike across the other one into a town called Ohio-to-Erie. into a town called Ohio-to-Erie, I think is the way to pronounce it. Really cool place. Lots of ice cream shops and bike stores and that kind of thing. Also, this is where you can get a shuttle bus to go up to Frank Lloyd Wright's, what's his house there called? Falling Waters or something like that, right out of Ohio-to-Erie. I didn't do that. That would have taken another 2 or 3 hours, and I wanted to get here to this bed and breakfast, but that was a cool town. Saw deer, muskrats, woodchucks, whatever. A turkey and a little baby turkey following it across the trail. Didn't want to get out of my way, and there was a deer that just stood there and stared at me for a while before it ran off with its fawn this morning. But it's just a great ride up here this morning along a lovely river, and there have been people kayaking by as I was having lunch and that sort of thing. Today's been a really good day, at least partly making up for the fact that I lost my pannier and I may not be able to camp at all for the rest of the trip. So tomorrow, 60 miles from here to Cumberland, Maryland, another state, hopefully not in the rain, and getting closer to DC. The end is really coming into sight now. It's not going to be all that much longer. That's week 6. See you next time. Like and subscribe if you like these videos. See you next time.